everyone, welcome to Analytics Insight panel discussion. The days of doing face-to-face service with the customers are over. With the dreadful virus hovering over us, the adaptation of digital solutions is surging across the commercial sectors, and the customer service department is no different. The major element of learning more about customers is data. But scattered, unstructured data will come to no use. So now businesses are eager to implement analytics tools on the large array of information. With the descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive nature of data analytics, organizations will get the insights for making effective decisions. In today's panel discussion, we aim to help convey how businesses can use data analytics to explore their customers' experiences. The topic of our panel is Rethinking Customer Experience with Data Analytics. Now, let me introduce our eminent speaker. Today we have with us Lakshmana Gnanapragasam, Senior Vice President of Strategy Consulting and Analytics at Epsilon. Lakshmana comes with over 20 years of experience helping clients achieve transformational benefits through data and technology. At Epsilon, he leads the strategy consulting and analytics practice, supporting clients from the US and Asia Pacific regions. Prior to Epsilon, Lakshmana has worked for organizations that specialize in marketing strategy, data ecosystems, industry value chain analytics, and machine learning applications across financial services, telco, retail, and media industries. Hello, Lakshmana. Welcome to Analytics Insight panel discussion.
Thanks, Saravisa. Glad to be here and looking forward to learning through this exercise. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Vincent Stoecklin, VP APAC of Customer Success and Data Science at Dataiku. Vincent is quite passionate about technology, and he is currently working with Dataiku, a global data science company focused on helping companies build and deploy data products and accelerate their path towards enterprise AI. Vincent is an expert in analytics with the perfect blend of experience in customer success implementation and data science. Hello, Vincent. Welcome to Analytics Insight panel discussion.
Hello, Saravisa. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here.
Last but not the least, we have with us Geetha Adinarayan, Director of IBM Client Engineering, IBM Technology Sales, IBM India and South Asia. Geetha is an expert in AI infusion in enterprise applications, performance engineering for large enterprise projects, and building new offerings from scratch. She currently works as director at IBM. She has also received the Women in AI Leadership Award by Geetha Company. Hello, Geetha. Welcome to Analytics Insights panel discussion.
Thank you so much. Very happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, without any further ado, let's begin our much awaited discussion on the use of data analytics in understanding customer experience. Now, I would like to ask all three of the speakers that how important do you think data analytics is in today's world? We can do the panel like first Lakshmana can share his inputs, and then Vincent, and then Geetha. I hope it's okay.
I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. It's such an interesting question. I think it's I think from the vantage point of Epsilon and the work that we do when it comes to the customer data platforms and loyalty platforms, messaging, and media solutions. I think it sounds quite trite, but data is the oil. I think the rich first-party data that their enterprises and brands collect with customer consent fuels a lot of downstream marketing, customer engagement, and loyalty applications. So it's absolutely critical, and we have seen this thing happening with the clients that we operate. I think there are some clients who understand. There are some clients who understand the value of the data that they have got on their consumers, and they go about making thoughtful investments in learning more about their consumers by partnering with second-party and third-party organizations And there are companies that still have sitting on a ton of data, but they don't realize the value of all of this. So we are almost seeing this in the last decade or so. The standouts, the companies who are taking advantage of the data that they have got, are breaking away from a whole set of organizations who still struggle to organize their data and make some meaningful insights and actioning on this data. So it's absolutely critical, both from Epsilon point of view and also generally from what I see the industry is heading.
Now we will go to Vincent. So please tell me what you have on your mind.
Yeah, thanks. Indeed, a very broad and very timely question. I think, obviously, data analytics is new. It has existed for 30, 40, 50 years. I think we have seen an acceleration to a very large degree in the past 10 to 15 years, and that's driven by, I think, many different things, right? Tech is one. It has made a lot of data available for analysis, things that were previously not accessible or things that we couldn't really make sense of. That has created a lot of new opportunities. There's definitely, I think, a competitive aspect to it. The new way that companies differentiate themselves is through analytics, through customer intelligence, through being able to be smarter about the way they interact with their customers. And with a lot of digital native companies coming to disrupt some of the business that we traditionally know, that has taken an importance that is absolutely critical in the way companies operate today. So it's definitely front and center in the way I think many organizations think about their products, their competitive advantage, their positioning on the market. And to be honest, for people who have been in this domain for a long time, it may seem like the market is evolving and maturing to a very large degree, but I do think we're still quite early, actually, when it comes to this. There's still so much that can be done, so many new doors that are being opened, so many players that arrive on the market each day. It's very exciting for what's to come.
Great to hear. Now, please, Geetha, I would like you to share your ideas.
Sure. So adding to what we heard, right, I want to pick up these three terms. The terms data, analytics, and customer experience, right? So I'll probably go with the last one, customer experience. I'm sure all of us can put ourselves in the shoes of customer, right? Because we have been a customer for something or the other. And look at ourselves. Our needs have changed, and our needs, we know tomorrow and day after is going to be different. And we have been growing over ages, right? Growing over the years. So what is clear is the customer needs and wants are very different on a day-to-day basis. Now, connecting, and also the other part is whenever you talk about this term called experience, there is always a feeling part to it. So to have this delighted feeling with the client, you want to give an experience that they relish. You want to give an experience that is delighting that particular customer. Now, the question is how? How can that happen given the needs of the client or needs of the customer is changing on a day-to-day basis, right? So let's connect that part to data and analytics. So in the past, if you see, how did we understand client? You probably went to a store, you were interacting with a particular person. You probably went to the same person. I remember my childhood. If I went to a grocery store, I saw the same owner every time. Owner pretty much knew what I would ask when I went to the store because he knew the patterns of my buying, right? Okay. And today the scales are large. Today the world is digital, but you still need to give that personalized, experience where you are creating that wow for client. So what talks on behalf of the customer? It is the data. Because everything that the client does, whether I'm buying, I'm seeing how long I saw the screen, how long I saw the product, what did I buy, what did I return, it's all there. It's all there in the data. And stitching that data together for giving this experience becomes analytics. So if you ask me, data analytics is what is going to help us create that world that works better, right? And I kind of resonate with what Vincent told. There is so much that is there. There are clients who are making use of it. There are clients who wants to make use of it. It's a journey that we have begun together, and I think there's a lot more miles to cover.
Thank you, Geetha. And so we are trying to understand how data analytics is being used in customer experience. Now, I would like to ask all three of you, like, what kind of data analytics tools you were using for your organization for understanding this customer experience? And it will be great if three of you can give me a picture about how it has affected you for the past 5 years. Vincent can start this discussion right now, and then we can go Geetha and Lakshmana.
Okay, so I think there's as I understand, there are two sides to your question. One is the tools, the stack that we use for customer analytics. The second is how it has affected me with the company. So in terms of the stack, there's quite a lot to cover, actually, so I'll try to be fairly quick. Maybe talk about the categories, right? There's obviously, if we start at, there's a lot to cover, actually. Okay, so it comes down to basically you have the different data universe of data sources for us, right? We have obviously, so we're a software company, right? So everything that has to do with the website for customer acquisition, all the leads, all the people who come download some material. So all the interactions with people with our content, right? That really helps us to understand early interest and then to drive engagement, essentially, either through people who will call them or through automated emails based on the type of content they have seen. Then there's the broad world of CRM solutions. We use HubSpot and Salesforce, and those solutions essentially collect the different touch points, essentially, right? And they have workflows included, which are generally based on business rules, which are, if you have seen a lot of content on financial services, for instance, then we may trigger something that, an email or a callback based on that specific topic that you have seen. There's another big part of what we do, which is product analytics, right? So we sell a software platform. Some of that is hosted by ourselves, right? So an online SaaS subscription. It is absolutely critical for us to understand how people interact with our product. So essentially, it comes down to web tracking to some degree, but really understanding the patterns. Do we have a data scientist who's coming and opening Python and R and starting to code his way, not looking at the documentation and going all in? Do we have a less technical user who is coming and, going through the help menus and trying to figure out the visual capabilities of the platform? And how do we, from there, impact the product roadmap? What needs to be changed? Where are the buttons where people are really, really struggling and going back and forth? And what are the best onboarding paths? The product is so vast that perhaps we could even think about hiding some things to users that are of no interest to them. So that's one big part of our, stack and analytics. I guess the last part is the history of interactions. So things like emails, recorded Zoom calls. We use a solution called Gong for that transcribes automatically all the calls. This is also, we haven't started, but we're thinking about it. How can we extract insights from those? What are the words that keep coming up? Are there trends that keep coming up? And how can we enrich our business rules in our CRM system through that kind of data? That's the mile-high view. I'll stop here. I could go into much more detail, but I'll let others also share their point of view.
Okay, amazing. Now, I would request Geetha to share her insights.
Sure. So we are talking about tools and tools for data analytics, right? So typically, if you look at industry, the need starts with a use case. For example, I either want to know how much loan I can give to a particular client, or what promotions can I do for this particular customer in terms of product landscape. So with that use case in mind, one can start looking at what is the data that will make me get this use case come alive or make this use case come alive. And that's where the whole journey starts, because what we have seen in reality with multiple clients is the data can be siloed. The data can be in multiple places. So when you start thinking thinking through the journey, first, in fact, we do run these workshops called, design thinking workshop for AI, where you go through this in a very structured way, starting from use case, understanding what all data you need, where the data resides, and how do you get that data together. And it is not a surprise, as many of us know, if you look at the entire data analytics or the modeling landscape, 80% of your time can go in just preparing data. First is figuring out what you have. How do I get access to it? How do I ensure only the people who need it get access to it, right? Then how quickly can I run experiments and prototypes to be able to get insights out of it? So if you see all this, having good tools and platform becomes the key. And that's where IBM comes with Cloud Pack for Data, a comprehensive platform which can run both on-premise as well as on cloud, where you can go not just, throw some data at it and look at the patterns and insights, but go through the entire journey from accessing the data from its source, prepare the data, do whatever modeling you want to do. Then not just it, because writing of a model is just one particular step, but how do you really put it in production? So you need a tool which can become your friend and companion from the point of defining use case to accessing data to ensuring that the model is running in production. And Cloud Pack for Data gives number of these features in a comprehensive way.
Thank you, Geetha. Now, Lakshmana, please let me hear what your thoughts are.
I totally agree with what Geetha said. I think it's often not the tool. The tool becomes an important aspect of your analytics and AI strategy. It's absolutely critical. A good tool that can make a big difference in terms of your ability to deliver on that use case. But oftentimes it is what is the outcome? What is the use case that I'm trying to deliver? That drives that. I think that's what typically the client level people that we deal with from Epsilon point of view, we deal with the chief marketing officers, head of loyalty, head of digital transformation. I think those are the sort of things that those leaders are clearly interested in. What is the outcome that we can deliver? So Epsilon, actually many years back, we made a big shift from doing custom platform implementations to software as a service. I think it was a big transformation. Just imagine changing the direction of a big container ship from, that is going in one direction and changing it 180 degrees to go in a different direction. But it has actually yielded a lot of dividends for us. All the software as a service platforms that we deliver are all cloud-based, cloud native platforms. We set up virtual private cloud for our clients and then deliver our CDP, which is customer data platform, loyalty platform, and messaging. And then we take advantage of some of the tools and the environment that these cloud platforms provide. For example, AWS, SageMaker, Databricks, and so on and so forth. So it just depends on what is the relevant use case that we are trying to deliver for that client. And then in case it's good to see Vincent on the call, we have also used Dataiku quite extensively in some of our business units. It actually helped our data science team to bring the data together, create features out of the data, build some 2 or 3 different models and test out in terms of the efficiency of these models, and then publish these models and move them into an ML ops side. It has yielded us some benefits when we started using some of these automated machine learning tools. So it's again, I would just say that you start with the vision and the use case, then work backwards. And there could be different tools that can be relevant to solve those use cases, including Epsilons and software products that are available in the marketplace.
Thank you, Lakshmana. It's great to hear. Now, let me ask you this. This is to Lakshmana. What is the process of collecting data from experiments and analyzing it? What are the strategies that you are following right now?
Yeah, I can speak at a fairly high level from what we see clients, the clients that we deal with, do. Typically, I think, most organizations don't realize that there is so much data that sits within the organization. So when we come in and take a look at the enterprise and look at different departments and functions and the software products that they use, we realize that there is so much data that's available within the enterprise itself. It could be purchase transactions data, it could be engagement data, it could be the survey data that you would collect from your consumers and prospects. So we put all of this under this bucket called first party data, right? Because it is oftentimes consented, and then the customer agrees to share this information with you in order to encourage you to come back to them with the relevant products, offers, and solutions and everything. So that's first party data. Then there is second party data, which is around the partnerships that you would strike with a like-minded partner. So we could think about retailers partnering with FMCG companies and insurance companies partnering with banks, because there is some sort of symbiotic relationship there. So that could be used for an insurance company. A bank's data could be used as a second party data that you can bring to your database. Then there are third party data, and there are various data providers out there that would help you understand the demographics, the lifestyle, life stage, financial information, etc., of your own consumers and prospects. So in some cases, that data fills in a certain gap that you would have in your own sort of like customer profile and 360-degree understanding of your own customers. Then there are some really interesting programmatic media solutions out there that would help you understand the people's online behavior in a pseudonymous fashion, right? I mean, because there are some strict data privacy regimes out there, you can't really identify these individuals. You could ID them, if you will, and say, here is an ID, and then here is the media consumption behavior of this ID, and here is the device information of this ID, the location information, the kind of e-commerce purchases that they do, etc. I think that becomes a rich source of insight on your own customers. So we have seen the magic happens when you bring all of this data together into what we would call a customer data platform, and then drive your entire marketing and loyalty campaigns from there. So I think that's the journey that we are on, and we have seen a lot of enterprises and brands are very keen to solve this problem.
Thank you for explaining it so well. Now, Geetha, I'm really interested to know, while using data analytics to calculate customer experience, how much reliance do you think you have on social media? Do you think that startups should focus on this angle more than the business giants?
Okay. So I'll probably use the customer experience as the anchor, because the whole thing about what we are talking today, right, which is rethinking customer experience, is all about the customer. So if you look at customer, they're telling different aspects of themselves in different ways in different channels. So social media becomes one way of expressing their wants, needs, or opinions, reviews, comments, whatever, right? Now, for us to get a 360-degree view of the customer, if we miss out what is there on social media, we definitely are missing some part of it, right? So social media becomes relevant. Again, I would say it is also in the context of the use case that we have and the data needed for that use case. For example, if you want to know what kind of customer, what kind of things that they like, what is their sentiment around specific class of products, number of these can come from social media, right? Most of these are unstructured data coming in text, and these days it can be in different languages also. So in order to make use of it, you need to, use a platform that's a good companion for you, which can analyze this, large amount of text at speed and be able to give you domain specific insights in the context of the use case. Not like, some of the out of the box things saying, I can extract these entities, I can correlate it this way for a particular domain. But if you need to do something custom, you should be able to do it. So net, to summarize the answer, yes, social media becomes one of the ways to know clients, and using appropriate technology to get that aspect of the customer kind of makes it holistic.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you. Now, this question is for you, Vincent. What do you think are the best data analytics strategies that a startup should adopt to serve their customers better?
That's a tough one. I think there are a couple. So in terms of the different strategies, I think it's hard to think about this holistically because it depends a lot on, well, use cases, obviously, industries. What I would perhaps say is I would try to maybe fall back on some of the principles of lean startup, right? Which is, quick experiments, fail fast, serve the consumer. One of the pitfalls that we often see is very, you tend to sometimes have a disconnect between the actionability of analytics or any insights that you produce. And so you end up having built, the best dashboard, and it's really fancy, and it's bringing data from everywhere, but then it doesn't actually serve a business outcome, right? So the data that gets exposed and the insight isn't really something that impacts the business. Or second pitfall that we often see, less the case probably in startups, is change management. People don't like new tools. They generally don't adopt new solutions readily. So there is an effort that needs to be conducted in change management. And this is even more so the case when you're in a small company. You can't really afford to waste resources. So what I would suggest perhaps in the first instances when you start a business is to really focus on the core aspects of your business. And that generally for startups means product development and customer acquisition or growth, generally speaking. It's not really the time to focus on, regulatory compliance and things that come way later, are extremely important, but may come later. So focus on everything that helps you to develop your product, if you're a product or services company, everything that helps you to improve your product. So getting feedback from customers, getting feedback from testers, all of what can help you drive a roadmap and an execution and test your product market fit in a continuous way. And focus on everything that can help you grow. So growth hacking, digital marketing, and having analytics around this, what works, what doesn't work, is critical if you want to establish foundations to scale.
Thank you, Vincent. Now, Geetha, I would like to ask you that customer engagement versus customer service, how different do you think are the uses of data analytics that can be for these two different sectors?
Right. See, these two terms, the engagement and service, right? So let's take a couple of examples. So if you look at our engagement, what is into our mind? Someone is kind of engaging with you to do something that you want. Just if you look at the term customer service, the term service itself is kind of, can you hear me?
I think there is a little connection problem.
Okay.
Now we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about it. Yeah. So when I talk about customer service, pretty much if you look at the way it is understood, it is I have a particular problem, so I'm going to a particular place to get my problem sorted out, right? Now, in today's digital world, these two are kind of interlocked together, or, these are together. These are olden days where, I was serviced in a different mode and I was engaged in a different mode. Now, that is where knowing the customer holistically becomes very important. Now, again, depending on the use case for customer service could be different. For example, you may want to know in which product line most of the defects are being reported. Whereas customer engagement is, how do I entice customer to buy this particular insurance per se, right? So the customer needs are different, therefore, between engagement and service. Therefore, the data that you look at becomes little different, right? But as we move along in the digital world, customer expects you to know or expects us to know what has happened between engagement and service. So we are able to kind of, interoperate or interchange these two as and needed in the conversation. So I can come to you for a particular complaint, but, I may be given a product in that conversation itself, based on the context on your problem and based on what will solve the problem, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Now, Lakshmana, I'm interested to know that while using data analytics, how can companies manage the uniformity between customer outreach and customer communication?
Yeah. I think one of the things that we don't see organizations not talk a lot about is this whole thing called customer identity. A good example is that, okay, yeah, if you go to, let's say, a retail organization and ask them, okay, how many customers that you've got, or how many customers have enrolled in your loyalty program, they would say, okay, I've got 10, 15 million people enrolled in my loyalty program. But then when you start opening up the hood and start to look into that data, then you start to see that there are a lot of duplicates out there. Sometimes, we've always seen this thing, like, you walk into a retail store, you sign up for you continue to shop there, you sign up for a loyalty card, and the next time you come in and then you forget your card, or you change your phone number, then you sign up for another membership within the same retailer. So that's a duplicate, for example. So we see that oftentimes 8 to 10% of their book is duplicate. Now that's an identity. I think it's often not talked about a lot. People start to look at the data and then aggregate the attributes at a customer level and start to dig into, okay, what sort of segmentations are there, what sort of cross-sell, upsell opportunities are there, how can I retain people, reactivate people. We go straight there, and I'm not saying that's not important. It's absolutely important, but you got to get the foundation right, which is you need to really know that the identity is absolutely critical to solve for as use case number one before you start going down the path. So I would say, if you solve for identity, a lot of these downstream things come in very easy. So from our view, we will see identity and then insights, activation, and measurement. Right. So I think if you look at it in terms of that sequence, then it would begin to make a lot of sense. So you solve for identity. You wanted to make sure that you don't have duplicates in your data. You combined multiple customer records into one ID, if you believe that that's of the same person or a household. And then you can use a variety of machine learning and data analytics tools to gain a deeper insight on your customer base. This is where machine learning and deep learning models can be deployed. And then you activate them. I think that the goal is to activate these customers from your customer data platform or loyalty platform across the channels, right? I think there will be certain own media that you would have. There will be paid media investments that you'll be making to reach your own customers, or find people like your good customers for acquisition. Then you have to fuel this data into your websites and apps, so that the next time these customers come in, I think that information, what they see in terms of the products and offers, is fairly personalized. So that's where activation comes in, and then finally closing the loop, which is measurement, to really see which campaigns worked, which offers worked, etc. So I mean, the uniformity is absolutely critical. I think I'm not sure whether one tool can actually solve this problem end to end. This is where you need help, either with your internal consulting organization, digital transformation organization, or external specialists. You can bring them on board and then help them look at your entire marketing tech stack, loyalty tech stack, and then think about it in that sequence of identity, and insights, activation, and measurement, and ensure that these tools, if you've got different tools, they're all connected with one another, so that you can actually do sort of like an end-to-end sort of analysis and measurement and attribution. So identity is something that I wanted to emphasize on, but there is a lot of other things that you need to get in place in order to deliver on those use cases.
That's very interesting to hear. Now, this question is for Vincent. I'm really curious to know how Dataiku has its custom software for the operations of data analysis. Now, for the new coming startups, what would you like to suggest? Like, should they have a customized software solution, or should they just rely on the existing tools?
Yeah, I think it's generally, no matter your stage of development, it's rarely a good idea to build your own. There's a lot of effort that has gone into many organizations building and selling analytics software, and new startups are appearing every day that are focusing on that. If the reason we have our custom solution, which is Dataiku, is because that's the solution that we build and that we sell, right? So we obviously use it extremely extensively internally for all of our BI, customer analytics. If you're not a startup whose core business it is to develop an analytics solution, you should absolutely leverage what's already on the market. Otherwise, you will waste significant energy trying to rebuild things that most likely already exist, are already supported, are already evolving elsewhere. So definitely my recommendation is use the best of what's out there for your current use case. Perhaps try to be careful. There is a lot of, especially in engineering-focused organization, stringing together a lot of different tools, right? We use API from vendor A and module from vendor B, and if you have deep engineering skills, you can definitely do that and rebuild your entire stack and make those integrations. That works generally. It can be hard to maintain. And as you scale, it can become technical debt, basically. Some people have developed an integration, it's not really maintained, then product B or module A changes and you have to rebuild it, right? So I just perhaps be a little bit careful with the best of breed approach. There is a good balance between one single monolithic platform for everything and 25 different solutions that each do one specific thing. There's probably a good middle ground in that helps you to be a bit more future-proof while allowing the best set of capabilities for what you're trying to do.
Thank you, Vincent, for sharing your ideas. And now this question is for Geetha. Please tell us some of the most interesting use cases that we may have come across while deciding upon the perfect solution for any particular client. And how do you think you have used data analytics for, taking up with those decisions?
Sure. See, the customer conversation or, engaging with customer has become very critical. And we also see a large number of larger number of these happening in the market today. So I'll give you an example where, we were working with a fashion retail company, and because of COVID, they wanted to kind of mimic the in-store experience in the digital world. So it started off saying, can I have conversational commerce? So you go and ask and you kind of, get the answers. It could be very simple things like, I'm looking for a birthday gift for my husband. Or it could be like, I want to buy a shirt, right? But soon what we realized is it is not just voice. The humans as a customer, we really wanted another person on the screen to talk to you like a real person. And that kind of took us to another spectrum of this problem where we really brought digital avatars of human beings on the screen, right? So, as we are talking, we are working with number of clients. And in fact, many clients outside the country have got these conversations where it feels like you're talking to real human who can understand your needs. And many of them are consultants in their own field. And you can ask, for example, you can go and say, I'm looking for a watch for my husband's birthday. The avatar will tell you what kind of watches are there. You kind of make a decision. It gives you a suggestion. You finish your journey. And, it is quicker. It is more interactive. It is more engaging, right? So I think we've come a long way. And I think the COVID has also accelerated a lot of it. From, clicking on buttons on navigational panels to, the ability to have chatbots to real human kind of conversation in the digital world.
Thank you, Geetha. And this question is for Lakshmana. What do you think are the possible strategies that we can use to monetize the data that we have gathered from the customers?
Yeah, monetization is a big use case in itself. I think, if you look at a, let's say, going back to my favorite example of a retailer and a loyalty program, you do have customer consent information. You religiously track at a customer level all the products that they bought, over a certain period of time with you, and then if they are coming into your website and app, you also know the sort of engagement that they have with you. So I think monetization, a lot of people immediately go into selling data, but I think monetization starts with, okay, I've got this data on my customers, and I also gather relevant data about my customers from second party and third party that I talked about, then digital media data. Now, how can I use this data to improve my own business outcomes? Okay, that should be a monetization use case number one when it comes to all organization. So for a retailer, it could be that, okay, how can I use my data to acquire more highly profitable customers? How can I use my customer data to sell more relevant products and services and solutions to our customers? How do I retain my highly valuable customers? And if there are certain customers who churned or attrited, how do I bring them back? I think you should actually make sure that you put all the use cases that drive your own business's core revenues, or optimizing your cost component, OPEX component. I think you should put that right on top of any monetization use cases. Once you do this thing reasonably well, then you can start to think about, like, okay, are there ways that I can monetize this data that I've got? A good example is with the loyalty program data that you've got with retailer. FMCG and CPG companies would pay rich dollars to gain insights on your customers, right? I think, because I think that the challenge with FMCG companies is that they don't know who their consumers are, and they will pay money to gain insights on their consumers. And retailers sit on some rich first party data, right? You have the ability to take a look at their basket and what products they buy, what are all the products that are bought together, shopping mission, and so on and so forth, right? So I mean, there is an opportunity for you to monetize the data by selling insights and selling audiences to the FMCG companies, right? FMCG companies can actually tap into a retailer's media network to reach retailers' own consumers to market their own products, right? So we do have a set of solutions within Epsilon that actually excels in this particular area. They are called like digital media solutions and Citrus Ad and so on and so forth. I mean, that to me is a use case number two, which is like, okay, I do extremely well in terms of driving my own core revenues using the data. Now, what are the other ways that I can sort of monetize this data, with like-minded partners, like FMCG company leveraging a retailer's data, which is where the retail media networks kind of solutions would come into a big play. We've already seen globally some of the largest retailers make a ton of additional revenues through media networks, and it has an opportunity to create an additional revenue line item in your P&L. So there is a big opportunity out there, and some of the leading and breakaway retailers already do that well.
Amazing. That's amazing. Now, to Vincent, I would like to ask that how do you think that data analytics will shape its future? Vincent, are you there?
Yes, I was on mute.
Okay.
I think there are some key trends that we're seeing that I think will continue to shape analytics activities and outcomes. The first one, and for me, I think the most important, is self-service. We're really moving from a world where you have, and I'm oversimplifying, but you have business and you have analytics, and analytics has different levels of complexity, right? From guys who write, SQL, now Spark, Hive code, Python, two guys that do advanced, dashboarding, and then you have consumers. There is a big push from many organizations to move into a bit more of a self-service way. And I think the big thing that it solves, I remember starting my career in financial analysis, you want a data set to use in Excel, you have to ask a team, and that team will write a SQL query and then give you the data set. But obviously, you weren't really sure what you needed, so you have to go back 3-4 times. So you have those people that are really serving the business and giving them data assets, whereas you have a lot of technologies now with the right framework and governance where people could access this data in a self-service way. Right. So I do think it requires upskilling, governance, controls. It's not an easy task, but I do think we're moving more and more towards a democratization of analytics by, end users, ultimately. I think that's one. B, we do see a lot of emergence. The data scientist obviously is the sexiest job of the 21st century. And there's a very high demand on the market, right? When you see it, what organizations are looking for today, yes, they need to do advanced machine learning projects in production and so on. But there is also, as the complexity of some use cases grow, the average expectation for analytics is shifting as well, right? It's not just about, copy paste a pie chart in PowerPoint, right? It has evolved to an expectation that people would produce data products. Right. And data products doesn't need to be very complicated, but it's I want a Power BI dashboard or Tableau dashboard that gets refreshed every month. Right. So the expectation for analytics outcomes is shifting, and so we need to create a new, or not a new, but actually to upskill analysts into becoming, I don't really like citizen data scientists, to be honest, but analysts of tomorrow, right? And to make sure they're ready for what's coming for them, which is, hey, I want you to go from manual to more automated. I want you to go from purely descriptive to maybe a little bit of predictive insights in there. And I want you to go from spreadsheets to data products. That's one key trend, and it is scary for some, but with the right tools, with the right upskilling, with the right processes, I think it's something that's desirable and that's achievable. Perhaps the last one, which is perhaps more in parentheses, is real time. I've always been a bit skeptical of real time. It's been 5-8 years that companies have asked us at Dataiku, do you do real time? I have plenty of use cases, but when you really dig, are there really that many use cases? I don't think it was the case 5 or 10 years ago. I think it's starting now, in manufacturing, for instance, in some customer analytics use cases as well. In digital marketing, obviously, there are some, but it is, I think, something that may grow as technologies mature, as complexity increases for some use cases, and as companies always look for that edge. But it's perhaps something that will modify some architectures and some ways that people think about use cases as well.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Now, I would also like to share this question to Lakshmana and Geetha as well. Can you please share your ideas?
Sure. Yeah. Let me go next. I think it's such a broad question that you've asked, Satavisa. So this one, I would say there is a big movement towards automation and self-learning algorithms. I think it is an arc, but if you ask me, where are we? I think we are probably at the beginning of the journey of this. So there's usually, I think people say, whenever you talk about this insights, algorithms, and actions, the person in the loop, person on the loop, and person out of the loop. I think it's important to understand the difference between these three. Person in the loop is like, okay, machine generates a certain insight and recommendation. Somebody comes in and interprets that, and then thinks about, okay, what sort of like marketing campaign, what customer segments I need to choose as recommended by the machine. You select the audience list, customer list, and then you select the offer. Then you choose a marketing campaign. I mean, a lot of direct mailer campaign and to some extent email campaigns are still done like that. I think it is person in the loop. I think person interprets the recommendations of the machine and then plans the marketing campaign. The person on the loop is like, okay, let the machine do this thing, but the person is going to just watch it, right? Just to make sure that the things are going well. The machine is doing what it is supposed to do. And there could be exception handling, like, when it starts to go off course, I think you come in, and when you see the offers are going beyond a certain point, I think you just come in and then you stop that and then restart the engine. So that's person on the loop. And there is person out of the loop, which is your AI, which is like self-learning, completely adjusting the parameters, looking at new data, taking its own decision. There is actually no need for a human being to look at that. I haven't seen anything in that area, but like what Vincent talked about, some areas around, maybe there is manufacturing, supply chain, and then there is digital media that are more conducive over a period of time. When we ride that arc over a period of time, I think we will get there. But I think there is no point taking away the fact that automation is going to be a big movement. And we already start to see this thing happening. 5 years back, clients would come to us and say, I'm having a retention problem. Can you build an algorithm? Like right now, these algorithms can be done like overnight, right? With tools that are available, and put it in and then learn it on the job. You don't have to spend like 4 or 6 weeks building these algorithms from scratch. I think you can do some of these things overnight. And you could automate it and then continuously adjust the parameters, based on how the algorithm performs in production. So automation is a big trend, and we see this thing happening. That's where some of these tools could be helpful for us to get there quicker.
Thank you, Lakshmana. Now we are reaching near to our conclusion. So lastly, I would like to ask Geetha about this same question, like what the future holds for data analytics.
Sure. I would like to bring in this dimension of enterprise, and I'll tell you why I'm bringing this dimension. So I worked as an enterprise architect for a large telco account for a couple of years. And one thing that I learned is, when you look at a large enterprise, it's almost like looking at a kingdom. The eye opener for me is, you're talking about strategy in one place. You're doing number of transformations. Like, strategy is like you have a big city. You tell how your city needs to be 5 years down the line. Then transformation, you're actually redoing some parts of the city as you're talking about strategy, right? And the third one is operations. If there is an accident or if there is a road that is dug and you have to close it, you have to put a patch temporarily for the vehicles to move on. And the thing that happens in the enterprise is all three happen simultaneously, right? Now, look at the era where data becomes this oil and we are building this next-gen analytics capability at an enterprise scale. One thing becomes very clear. You need to trust a platform that can handle scale. You need to trust a platform that makes it like a factory for these models. It wouldn't become like one use case, one data scientist question. It'll become hundreds of models simultaneously being built, deployed, monitored, operated. And there is two parts to it, right? One is how quickly are you able to build? That is where there is a good integration of data and the real domain experts, industry experts, making it relevant for that particular industry within the enterprise context. The second one is how fair, how unbiased, right? And how explainable your data analytics is to be able to bring trust and transparency to the end client, right? So I think for me, the future is, yes, it's all about data, but a means to take that data and see the patterns, and using that patterns, give insights at the speed and with trust and transparency to the clients.
Thank you, Geetha. I would like to thank you all. We had a great time talking to all three of you, starting from Geetha pulling out real-life examples to define data analytics, to Lakshmana and Vincent explaining effective data strategies. The whole discussion was really interesting and filled with learnings. I would like to thank all three of you for joining us today. It has been a pleasure talking to you. I'm sure our listeners will be highly benefited from all this vital information that you have shared with us today. And thanks for being a part of this amazing panel discussion. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us. Good to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.